let's go ahead. I want a little Zen moment. On the flip side, we're going to do more callers because everyone's got something to say about the GOP debate. We'll go to James in Virginia after the break. I'd like to welcome James in Virginia to the program. James, welcome aboard.
How you doing, ma'am?
Doing quite well. You thought Newt Gingrich did quite well?
I believe Newt Gingrich did pretty well. I think Herman Cain did well. I want to say that all of them did, I'd say fairly well for looking all right on stage. Overall, I say I'm a Ron Paul supporter, and I think that overall you can tell that everyone on the stage views themselves as having states' rights, but not to the extent of Ron Paul. And that's where the true liberty is in giving the freedom to the people closest to the government, closest to the people. And I think that's where Ron Paul has the biggest point to make towards the Tea Party and towards Republicans, and that's where our country needs to be and our direction moving forward, is in give more of the power to the states and less of a regulation and overrun of the federal government. So.
Yeah, we said it before. I like a lot of the ideas Ron Paul has, but
you think it's 100 years old. You don't want to go back to where you're not voting anymore. That's not what Ron Paul represents, though. That's misinformed information that you're getting.
I am not saying that is what he represents. I'm saying that when you talk to the average person sitting on the couch watching the debate or just hearing about the debate later on their nightly newscast, when he says, we need to go back to the way it was, someone who is not politically active, if they say, well, 100 years ago, what were we doing? That's what they think of. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm not even saying I think that's what would happen. I'm saying that someone who is not politically involved or politically active would think that, and that he has to connect with those people. And I think those people are what he's missing out on, and that's why he's having so many problems.
I agree. I mean, my two best friends, 21 and 24 years old, they're completely misinformed. They don't understand it when I try and tell them the same things that Ron Paul represents. They say, oh, that guy's crazy. He's thinking that's impossible, this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, I know it's crazy, and you can't just take one point over another, this, that, or the other. But at the same time, his view's valid. You look at the federal government, and you give them the responsibility to take care of us or to give them this power or that power. They're just as irresponsible as anyone else. You at least give it to the states. Maybe 50% of the states really screw up, 50% of them do well. Well, at least that's better than one federal government ruling over all of us, screwing all of us over.
I thoroughly agree. And you want to know what? States were always meant to compete against each other. I think that's actually the secret weapon of the Constitution and the limitations of the federal government is the states were always meant to compete against each other under the same, banner of the, American people. Our politics stop at the water's edge because we are a country, we are America. But yes, you're right. Half the states fail, half the state succeeds. What happens in a failed state historically is that as that state implodes, you have mass emigration from that area. Basically, everyone packs up and leaves because there's no jobs, there's no infrastructure, there's no stores, things like that. Why? Because all the owners of the stores have already packed up and left. So they go to where there are jobs and people and infrastructure and success. And this is how countries survive over long periods of time. There will always be long-term mass emigration and immigration. So these successful states then become more popular. They get more representation in the census. And, in 40 years or 50 years, places like New York will not be the electoral powerhouses that they once were.
Virginia, baby.
Yep. Well, there's Virginia. There's Georgia.
You're absolutely
Texas.
right.
People are moving to Texas. And you wonder what? Over time, if those successful states then start adopting policies that will screw them up, those other states who are failed, they still got to be there. People are going to go back into those countries saying, hey, there's opportunity there because it's not as oppressive as here. And it will balance it out. The free market balances itself. That's why we're at it, because the point is to give us choice. The point is to give the people choice. If it does not facilitate that goal, it is not correct. Thank you so much, James and Virginia, for calling in. I do hope to hear from you again. And might I say, it was very nice. We actually have, I know Ron Paul supporters get a bad rap, and I've had my share of rabid and frothy Ron Paul supporters, but I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by the Ron Paul supporters that have called into this show.